So, hi, welcome to World Building. I'm Fabricator General, working with Spectre Studios. Today I want to talk about some basic tools, and I'd like to set the tone for my show, World Building, with some very basic tools and techniques. Take things from the very foundation in case you're just starting out. I want this to be very friendly and inclusive. If you have any questions about what I'm doing, please let me know down in the comments, and I'll take a look at those and see what I can do to address your issues. You can also check us out at spectrestudios.us. On the forum there, I'm going to have several threads that you'll be able to talk to me right through the forum, and we can work out any questions that you may have, or be able to talk more personally, community style, with anybody that's looking for more tips. Okay, so right at the beginning, you're going to want a good cutting board. It doesn't need to be necessarily a big expensive one. I do have some cutting mats that I've got from online and other stores with measured grids on them, and those are really nice, but they can be kind of expensive. This is a piece of old board game. You can still see some of the map on the bottom there. This is probably more than 30 years old itself. They hold up really well, and they help protect this desk, which is older than I am. So that's good to have. Everybody immediately thinks that they need to jump straight to knives. These are X-Acto knives, number 11 blades to be specific. One of the good tips that I've gotten is that when you're working with different materials, you should have different knives marked out. So this one is for plastics and basically all my non-metals, and then this one is for my metal materials, because you can very quickly, if you're using back and forth between metals and plastics, like some figures now, cutting on metal and really grinding through metal, you can really blunt the knife, and then cutting through your plastics just becomes more of a chore. So by keeping your plastic and your metal knives separate and marked out, like this has electrical tape on it, that just helps you move through, and it makes life a much easier and a much bigger joy. Also have you can get a X-Acto set, X-Acto knife set, that will have a big block of blades and a convenient place to put the spent blades, which is much better than just dropping your spent blade into your trash. Then you've got a sharp that's floating around in your trash, and you don't know when that's going to come out, or if it's going to cut through the bag, and suddenly you've got trash bag all over the floor, including a sharp knife that you have to pick up. And if you have pets or small kids, you know that that's the first place they go, is straight into that to spread that around. So that takes care of the knives. Some tweezers are good. A set of triangles. Some of the ones that are easier to pick up, that won't actually embarrass you when you're trying to do a film. Yeah, because I'm in filmmaking now. Triangles are really good. This is a 45-90. And this is a 30-60-90, and these can be really good when you're trying to plan something out, draw things out. These work really great. A small square works out really good. So this is an X-Acto square. I don't remember exactly where I got this. I think it was probably at a model train store. A pin. This is called a pin vise. It's a little hand drill. This is really useful for drilling small holes, pinning models together, putting antennas in things, and doing different other stuff like that. So this one is set up right now. It also comes with a chuck and a couple of different bits, so you're getting some bang for your buck with that. And there we go. Glue is obviously another big one. And I'm not sure, people often forget or just take for granted, but having pen, pencil, rated hand, and a good marker. This Sharpie's got the usual Sharpie tip on it, and this particular one also happens to have the fine tip, so this is good for writing on plastic card, sheet styrene. Then, let's see, for filing, you don't necessarily need to have a lot of files or go find expensive model files. You can actually get by with dollar store emery boards, and they work out just as well. Sometimes you might need to stay on it, be on task a little bit longer than you might think you need to be with a metal file, but for the price, and you can just burn right through them. You can file stuff down. When the emery board is all chewed up, you can just chuck it. Dollar store will get you like a pack of 10 for $1, and you can just rip through them without really any guilt as far as going through your supplies. I also like a good metal ruler. You can use any other kind of ruler. Well, you can use any other kind of ruler for measuring, but when it comes to cutting and straight line cutting, like if you're cutting down something, when you're using an X-Acto knife, you're going to be running down the metal. If you don't have a metal ruler or a metal edged wooden ruler, something that the knife won't cut into, because your hand is going to vary, you'll find that you'll end up cutting into your plastic rulers, taking notches out of them, ruining the straight edge value, and ruining your line when you cut into it, because you're going to start making those wavy lines you wanted to avoid. Right, so that's pretty much your basic essentials. Then you can start getting into some of the stuff that's a little more advanced, but can get you a lot more out of it. So that comes into this whole set of wonderful things. So in this big pile of mess, I've got a craft saw. And what's great about this is that it will cut through plastics and metals fairly quickly and efficiently, even woods. But as you can see, even when you kind of bump into it or you happen to hit your finger on it, this particular saw won't take a chunk out of you very fast. It gives you an opportunity to make a couple of mistakes and not worry about leaking all over your good furniture. This is a miter box, and miter boxes, I'm not sure how well you can see there. You can see down here is angle numbers. So here, this allows you to reliably make good 90-degree cuts, and let's see, here we go, 45-degree cuts. And this lip is really handy. What you do is you take that lip and you can put it right up against the edge of your desk, and then you can do your cuts. The saw only cuts on the forward stroke, so when you push in, this helps stabilize the box so that you're not sliding all over the place and screwing up the quality of your cuts. These little pegs will fix it in and give you a better grip. We'll cover this in a later tutorial in more detail. As I was saying with the emery board, you can work with emery boards, or if you happen to be fortunate, save up some money, or you happen to find these in the store when you're going through, you can find a set of needle files, and the needle files allow you more versatility. So by using the emery boards as your workhorse files, you can save the quality and the utility of these specialized files for those more specialized jobs. If you like, we can cover the needle files in more detail on another time. As always, let me know. Come to the forum, check it out there. You can find me there under Fabricator General, easily enough, and or down in the comments. One thing that I do think is not exactly a basic necessity, but is still very important, is a pair or a couple of pairs of good needle nose pliers. This came from a fabric store. It had like a 3 or 4 pack of different plier styles for like $6. They're really inexpensive, but they're still very useful. The fact that they've got a short nose allows me to work closer in on models. It's got a little wire cutter right there. This is a bigger, more robust, more traditional needle nose plier that I can use for other heavier, more brute force kind of applications that might actually break these little ones. If you can come across tweezers that actually close when you relax, so where these tweezers open when you're not holding them, these tweezers stay shut. So if I was to have something that I was trying to hold on to, now I can do other stuff and this piece will still stay held, and I can be gluing something or whatever, and I don't have to always be maintaining that pressure, or I can shift my hand around and this will still stay held. So that's good. Calipers. I think I also got this from a model train store or airplanes or something like that. And it's just like a regular grown-up version, machinist calipers, but it's very useful for hobby stuff and allows you to do consistent measuring, so that if you wanted to make sure that, what does the wheel or the axle on the model, what size is that? What size other tubing do I need to be able to do that? You can measure, get a good consistent measure, and maintain some consistency in your build if you're doing something other than crude orc or raider type vehicles where precision isn't as important. So we'll do another video on the calipers later, so we can get into those. You can see that better. These are flush cutters, so named because they cut flush, they cut flat, and these are very useful for working with plastic only. These are very fine, so you don't want to work with them on metals, but for like Italy or more fiddly things, some of the Games Workshop Eldar stuff has some pieces on the sprue that if you just try to twist or snap them off, then if you do it with your fingers, then you're just as likely to snap the piece or have a big chunk of sprue left over that you have to carve off. Or if you do it with a X-Acto knife, you still might end up with a little bit of sprue left on there as flash, and you try to carve it off with the X-Acto and you cut into it and you have to get rid of it. I've said some fairly impure things about purity seals when I was trying to get all that flashing off of there, and had to chuck those and start over with something a little more whole. These, however, allow you to get right tight up against the sprue and nip that off nice and clean and have very minimal cleaning left after it's done. A circle template. You can pick up a circle template, I think, pretty much any office store or anything like that. This is a Statler. If you really want, I can do a bigger thing over the use of the circle template and everything. We can deal with that. That's pretty self-explanatory, but I'm always glad to help out with any questions. Another useful thing, and surprisingly so, you wouldn't necessarily think of. I got this from an online forum. This idea. This is a 1/16 inch paper punch. So it's just like the regular hole punch that you're used to seeing. You make the holes for the 3-hole punch paper, put them in your binder. This has a hole that's only a 1/16 of an inch across, and this is actually used for scrapbooking. It's its original purpose, and I don't know what they do with it, but what I use it for is actually making rivets. And you can punch out some rivets real quick, and then you put the rivets on your vehicles, on your buildings. That's what they're called. Words are hard. Put them on your buildings, and it gives a better kind of almost a World War II or very simple looking aesthetic to it. I use it extensively for my orc models that I had. It can be used very extensively for, say, Ariadna models or any kind of frontier kind of thing where you don't have really clean, neat mirror steel kind of pano sort of construction. So that's also very cool. Then moving on from the advanced or the really useful stuff, we can get into the exotics. Exotic stuff is like something like this, which is also from Statler. And if you've ever worked with a template called a French curve template, it's one of those swirly, elegant looking templates you can use. They're used for duplicating curves or matching curves on a plan and then building it all out. This actually works better for simpler people like myself that are struggle with the elegance and beauty of the French curves. This allows you to actually pick any curve that you want, and here we go. I'll just lean off the edge of the world, pull a little Marco Rubio there, and pull this back up so I can take, say I'm working on something more elegant, more pano, more Eldar looking. So I've got this little line. I've got this beautiful curve that I've drawn. I don't know if you can see my beautiful curve. But then I take my beautiful little twisty curly thing here, and I can lay it right down, curve it right into the curve like this. almost as quickly. And once I've got that all set up, I can take a reference, seeing that basically my line starts where I've curled it around like this. It starts at the 1-inch line, curves around, oh beautiful, slightly woeful. It actually works better when you don't have the entire world watching you try to do it, showing that you know what you're doing. So it goes from the 1-inch line all the way around down to, and then ends at 13.5. So now I can just pick this right up, move it from the sheet that my original plan, my brilliant original plan, set it down onto my actual work surface, then take my marker again, and then run from the 1-inch line all the way around, down through, making sure that it doesn't move, down to 13.5 inches where I said it was. Pull that off, and I've got the same line, and I can do that over and over and over again unless I accidentally maul this because I'm frustrated with it. So that goes out that way. Another exotic, or two more exotics that we've got, is the tiny pipe cutter. See, we get the little pipe cutter. The railroad store, the hobby store, is a wonderful place for all sorts of interesting little things, gadgets to pick up. So you take this little pipe cutter, you can take your brass tubing. So with plastic tubing like this is pretty robust. I can cut this either with the pipe cutter or I can cut it in the miter box. But some stuff, if you start getting into real fiddly things like little thin brass tubing, you can't really cut on the miter box. One, because the brass is going to be hard on the saw's teeth. Another thing is that something this small is going to be hard to brace and hold in the miter box. And lastly, grinding away and pushing down on the piping is going to crush and crimp the brass, which is fairly soft. But the pipe cutter, I can just put in here, twist that down like that. And actually, it's not all the way in there, right? So everything works in rehearsal. It's a constant of the universe. Everything works in rehearsal and then embarrasses you on the day. But that's perfectly alright, because overcoming is exactly what world building is all about. Adapting and overcoming. So you tighten it down, give it a couple of twists. I even put this piece of old sprue on here that now wants to break while you're watching Adapting and Overcoming. So we just put that down there. And it's already cut through. And you can see that that cut end is just as round as the stock end. So that leaves that perfectly cut, and you've got this cut off nice and cleanly. If you were doing, say, exhaust stacks coming off your Rhino or your war truck or whatever else you might be building for whatever else you might be doing. Actually, I guess this would work good for steam stacks in Wolsung or Malifaux too. You could do all sorts of mad sciencey type stuff with that. Now that we've got the pipe cutter done, move on to the pipe bender. So getting that curve in it, I can't just take it and twist it, bend it. The piping will crimp. So what you do is take the pipe, stick it into here, like that. And you can see that it's got that little round wheel there. And then carefully feeling how force. You go too fast and you end up ruining what you're doing and redoing it and teaching other people in your household interesting new words. Bring it back open, and now sliding that right out. There we go, at 90 degrees. So we get a new stack. Put this back in the pipe cutter. So those are the exotics, the advanced, or the especially useful, and the basics. Do you have any particular tools that you really enjoy using that I haven't mentioned? Let me know down below. And once again, let's get to work on getting some stuff done. We'll build some worlds. We'll have a good time. And I guess there's nothing left to say to that, but we'll get to it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll talk to you again later.